Frank Capra said, "There are no rules in filmmaking, only sins, and the cardinal sin is dullness." Nowhere is it easier to commit this sin than documentary filmmaking. But the films of Doug Prey are never dull. Whether showing us the naked calisthenics of legendary surfer Doc Paskowitz, the mosh pits of 1990s Seattle, or the reactions of Los Angelinos to the transport across county lines of a 340-ton boulder, to reference just a few of his inspired documentaries, Doug Prey tells his stories with clarity, humor, verve, imagination, and a visual brilliance that can only be described as cinematic. He gives documentary filmmaking a good name. Doug Prey is often described as a filmmaker of subcultures, but I believe he's a filmmaker of creativity. His work showcases unique individuals who are committed to adding spark and strangeness to the world. Doug has made films about street art and about advertising executives, about turntablism and long-distance truckers, about earth installation artists, wingsuit flyers, and all manner of nomads and dreamers. It's worth mentioning that while most filmmakers only direct or only produce, Doug is the full package. He directs, produces, writes, shoots, and edits. Rare versatility in an industry that pushes specialization. And he shares what he does and knows. Doug gave Mark Webb, director of The Amazing Spider-Man, his first film job out of college, and has provided internships, inspiration, and support to numerous Colorado College students and graduates over the years, including when he comes here as a block visitor in documentary filmmaking, whenever we can get him, and consider this an open invitation. Doug Prey was born in Denver and grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. Among many other honors, he has won 2 Emmy Awards and is an invited member of the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts, and Sciences. More significant than these accolades, however, the results of his work is the work itself and how it has been achieved through Doug's openness and his irresistible and genuine curiosity about the world. I once asked him how he was able to obtain such honest interviews with his film subjects. He told me that the best question to ask in an interview, maybe the only question you needed to ask in an interview, was why? To me, this is as good a distillation as any of what it means to take a liberal arts approach to the study of life. It is with, Madam President, it is with sincere and deep pleasure that I present to you a distinguished artist, generous teacher, mentor and friend, and profound soul, Doug Prey, for the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
By action of a joint committee of faculty and trustees, and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you, Doug Prey, the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, and admit you to all rights and responsibilities pertaining to this degree. As a token of this honor, I ask that you be vested with the hood appropriate to the degree, and I present you with this diploma.
Thank you.
I'm now pleased to invite Doug Prey to deliver the Convocation address, which he titled Serious Spontaneity. Doug.
Thank you, Dylan Nelson. Thank you, President Tiefenthaler, and thank you, Colorado College. This is a huge honor for me to receive this degree. I'm going to put it in my refrigerator. Not to eat it later, but just to preserve it, since displaying it publicly won't actually help my standing in the film industry. Along with professional fishing, filmmaking is the only career where nobody ever asks whether or not you have a degree. Like the last fish you caught, they only want to know about the last film you made. How big was it? But I don't fish, and who cares what others think? This means so much to me personally because the 4 years I spent here between 79 and 83 have played such a dynamic and interconnected part of my life ever since I graduated. Don't worry, I'm not a big alumni-type booster. I didn't know the words to the song we just sang. I don't play Division I hockey very often, and I don't wear a full head-to-toe tiger costume in my daily life. I'm not going to try to sell you on this place, and it's too late anyway. You're already here. Ha. But I do want to explore with you what I think I actually got from CC, because besides some high-altitude sunburns, some hangovers, a BA in sociology, a bunch of close, lifelong friends, my wife Diana, and 2 children, a career, a collection of amazing memories, and just enough Palmer Hall brand truth to make me free, otherwise known as knowledge, which isn't a bad place to start, I suppose. What I really got from nestling here at the foot of Pikes Peak is less tangible. I can't measure it or see it or thank it. It's more of an approach or a framework. It's a sense of purpose along with a sense of humor. It's a state of open-mindedness that allows for lifelong learning and change and therefore adventure, both in your personal life and whatever might become your professional being. Simply put, the details of what you learn here don't actually matter. You might forget them. Your ability to take life seriously while being spontaneous does matter, and CC encourages that. I am serious about spontaneity. I'm a documentary film director. I don't work from scripts. I capture authentic moments from real life on camera and carefully fabricate them into a seemingly planned out narrative. Success in my job comes from beautifully unexpected moments of genuine spontaneity, like accidental flashes of gold in a pan. You can't write them, and you can't count on them, but you can miss them if you're not open and ready for them. Being at the right place at the right time is possible with discipline, and life is the same way. In fact, life is like one of those killer apps, like the one I have that shows all the star constellations and names the planets. It works in the middle of the city where all you see is light pollution, but the second you're up and away and gazing at the mind-blowing heavens, there's no internet signal whatsoever, and it's completely useless. It's what's in us, not our stupid personal technology devices, that lasts and is true. We can memorize the stars in advance, but being there and actually experiencing them is where it's at. Though I have plenty of regrets, I've made lots of mistakes, and there are a million things I still want to do in this life, I feel incredibly fortunate. When I look back at my career, it looks like a perfectly laid out plan. First I did this, then I met that person, and it led to that, and it opened the door to this, and so forth. It all makes sense, like it was written in a script. But I feel as though I've been walking backwards the whole time. It never quite made any sense to me along the way. It definitely didn't make any sense while I was huddled in a corner of Tut trying to write my entire sociology thesis at the 11th hour with a bad pen. On that note, I need to confess a few things, and yes, my last name just happens to be Prey, and we are in a church, so why not? When push comes to shove. Academically, I was not the best student when I attended CC. I wasn't bad, but I confess I got a few very bad grades. I confess that I didn't choose my major until the last minute, and I couldn't tell you today a lot about the things I learned within my major. At the risk of heresy, I also don't believe that the actual major you choose is as important as you all think it is right now. I got my BA in sociology, but academically speaking, I'm no sociologist. I confess that I've never once discussed Durkheim or practiced quantitative statistical analysis on anyone, not even my dog. I confess that the first business I started was called Loser Enterprises, not on the Forbes list. I confess that the first films I ever made were unintelligible black and white things with big ideas and which showed zero skills. My parents were supportive but worried because my first few years out of this expensive liberal arts institution seemed far too arty and way too liberal. I'm sorry about all of that. I was a late bloomer and I was searching. But enough of the self-trashing, and long live the class of '83. The fact is, I did connect with a lot at Colorado College. I was deeply affected by a number of professors who inspired me to different ways of thinking. I was challenged by my fellow students. I was provided with an endless amount of opportunities to strive and fail and learn and be creative. I loved the intensive energy of this place and thrived on the block plan. It helped me focus, and it still does today. And yes, even now, I breathe a sigh of relief, yell, block break, get up, and march out of any room I'm in exactly 17 and a half days into damn near anything. I love the block plan. For me, CC was also about learning outside the classroom. I was an RA at Slocum when it was just a cinder block jail, not the Four Seasons. I had a radio show on KRCC when the station was literally just 2 turntables and a microphone. I played in Michael Grace's Collegium Orchestra and tried C-League hockey. I played in a crappy cover band named the Arnolds. Okay, we were amazing, I admit it. I started drawing a weekly cartoon for The Catalyst. It was called The Flock Plan, and all the students were sheep. And that led Leviathan editor, now screenwriter Tim Sexton, along with Professor Ruth Barton, to talk me into being the editor of The Catalyst itself. Serious journalism was never more in jeopardy, so please do not drag out those back issues. I'll have you expelled. I can do that with this robe. I just got into a lot of stuff, and after my junior year, there was no film program at CC whatsoever. But I attempted my first 16mm film, projected it for some friends onto the bathroom stall in Cossett Hall, and realized movies could be made and not just watched. On that note, congratulations to all those who've worked so hard to pioneer CC's new film major and offer studies in the most dominant form of expression of the last 100 years. In college, I became so interested in so many different things that I couldn't make up my mind what to do. I loved music, but I couldn't see being a professional musician. I loved art, but wasn't good enough. I wanted to make media, but couldn't choose between radio, newspapers, or design. I liked politics and wanted to create social impact, but I was too cynical to run for office or to be an activist. I loved geology. My dad was a carbonate sedimentologist, but I couldn't hack chemistry. I was fascinated by social trends, hence my sociology major, but I didn't have a clue how to practice it or why I would. But when I finally stumbled backwards upon the idea of filmmaking, I realized I could practice each and every one of those arts and sciences. I could be a jack of all trades by trying to master one. Because when I'm directing a film, I get to practice dozens of disciplines. As a director, I need to make decisions based on reason all day long. When I'm conducting interviews, it's a form of therapy. I'm probing personal motivations and demanding honest statements. But how did you really feel about your mother? When I'm editing, I'm literally writing, and every principle of dramatic structure and arcing characters comes into play. Thank you, Aristotle and Professor Neil Reinitz. On top of that, each new documentary subject that I delve into is like a whole new block I signed up for. Like a chameleon, I get to totally immerse myself into graffiti culture for a year, and then hit the road and study truck drivers and their culture. From garage rock to volcanoes, from the North Pole to the South Bronx, my curiosity about any subject or any human being is the fuel that has propelled my entire career. My specific problem, being interested in practically everything and unable to choose what I like the most, became my greatest asset. I've never had to be an expert in any of the subjects I've filmed. I'm always an outsider. But because I've learned how to learn, and I'm good at asking why, I can adapt to any situation. Colorado College gave me this. And by the way, you don't have to make movies for liberal arts to just happen. The cross-pollination of ideas is powerful in all majors and all fields. Doctors can be writers, athletes can be artists, musicians can be scientists, lawyers can be philosophers, business leaders can be chefs, politicians can be enlightened. Enlightenment happened for me here. Sociology professor Jeff Livesey, who just retired a few months ago, reached me in his Theory and Praxis course. Who would have thought that his decision to show 7 Fassbender films to illustrate principles about social classes was the spark that first turned me on to film? And who would have known that my reluctant decision to attend the Urban Studies program in Chicago for a semester would give me an understanding of urban culture that directly informed work I would do 20 years later? Who knew that those rules I struggled with in James Yaffe's creative writing class were preparing me for a lifetime of writing film treatments and proposals? Who could predict that my buddies Jim Sangster and Tad Hutchison would move to Seattle after graduation and form a band that became instrumental to the rise of the Seattle music scene, which later became the subject of my first feature film, Hype, and kickstarted my entire career? And what strange irony that I have always felt inadequate in the study of sociology, yet my entire body of work is, in fact, a form of sociology. The point is that you all have absolutely no idea what you're going to be exposed to during these precious college years that might profoundly affect your life in another 5, 15, or 30 years. Stop worrying about what class you didn't get into. Be open to things that are unlikely for you. Sign up for the one course you least understand. Listen to the music you thought you were supposed to hate. Read the books you fear. Hang out with a different clique once in a while. Talk more, not less, to the professor you're mad at for not understanding you. Do something out of character. Reinvent yourself. You can. You're allowed to do that here. You're free. And there's nothing more precious in all of life. Finally, I'm not suggesting that you become this amorphous blob of gelatinous freedom like some drunken enzyme or whatever. You need goals, and you must do hard work. Lots and lots of hard work, both here in college and even more when you get out. Spontaneity is not a goal in and of itself. Being able to change directions midstream is great, but first you got to be going down the actual river. Because it's only when you do plan things out and have serious goals in mind that you can find great spontaneity in your life by being open-minded to unlikely connections, opportunities, and beautiful left turns along the way, which define you. With a great trail map, you can go off trail and find freedom, but without a map, you're just lost. Another way of putting it, actors can only improvise when they truly understand the story they're in and their character's motivation. I think the best advice I ever got was from a high school teacher whose mantra was, always take your job seriously, never yourself. It was a Dwight Eisenhower quote, but he'd heard it from somebody else too. It's helped me a lot in my filmmaking and in my life. Taking your job seriously doesn't mean being an obedient employee. It means applying yourself, being in the moment, and passionate about everything you do, whatever it happens to be. Getting out of your head and focusing on the work that's right in front of you. Not taking yourself seriously suggests the importance of having humility and humor. Stop worrying about what others think. Life is difficult and confusing. That doesn't change with each new decade, I'm sorry to report. And though it might look like I've just merrily skipped backwards all the way into this midlife cap and gown, my career and every film I've made has brought me plenty of pain and suffering. Being a documentary filmmaker can often seem like an absurd and unadvisable career choice at times. Laughing helps. In fact, life itself, in the dramatic sense, is fantastically entertaining. If all drama is based on conflict and change, a principle that chemistry and physics majors understand a lot better than film majors, by the way, we're all in a pretty good movie. In fact, it's a great movie. But don't worry, I'm not going to say, and you are the stars of your own movie, because that would be disgustingly cliche. Instead, I'll just end with just a few random reminders. The most amazing creative solutions were born of failure. People actually feel more alive during hurricanes. Walker Percy wrote that. Cynicism works very well in college, but it will fail you later in life. You're not alone. Everyone has a private hell. Everyone is amazing and worthy of celebration. You can't find love when you're looking for it, but when you stop stressing, it might just happen. That great quote by Nietzsche, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger," is true. Take risks. Turn off the TV, get off the web, put down the phone, keep life physical, emotional, and real. It's good, it's short, and it goes fast. As Hemingway and other authors have written, writing is rewriting. So have a blast rewriting your story. Maybe you can start reading it when you get into your 50s. I want to give a special welcome to the incoming class of 2019. My daughter will be joining you as a winter start in January. Figures she's not here, but she doesn't listen to me anyway. Thank you again for this incredible honor, and thanks for listening.